Hello friends, welcome back to DigiTalk and part 2 of JMS clustering. In part 1, we have gone through the basic concept of JMS clustering where we saw that when we need the clustering of JMS, which is a singleton services, okay, then how we can utilize the uniform distributed queue. Okay, now in this particular video, we will see the demo of that one, how we can configure a uniform distributed queue and then how we can send and read messages from the uniform distributed queue. Along with that, if in case of problem with one of the JMS server, how you can move the messages from JMS server 1 to JMS server 2 for the processing. Now, this is the architecture that we have discussed in the part 1 for the JMS clustering, where we have a cluster of two managed servers, right? And then we have two JMS servers. JMS server 1 is targeted to manage server 1, and my JMS server 2 is targeted to manage server 2. And then there is a persistent store created for each and every JMS server. Okay, and apart from that, we will create the JMS module. And inside the JMS module, we will have a sub-deployment where we will create a uniform distributed queue along with the connection factory. So connection factory is the basic entity that is required when any application need to connect to the JMS system. Then to create the connection, you need a connection factory. Okay, so apart from that, because we are going to see the JMS clustering with the help of uniform distributed queue. So apart from connection factory, we will create a uniform distributed queue that we will target to JMS cluster. Normally, when we create a simple queue or a simple topic, okay, it has to be targeted to only one JMS server. That means just like we have a JMS server which can be targeted to only one managed server, and one persistent store can target it to only one JMS server. Similarly, if we are creating a queue, then a queue can be targeted to only one JMS server. Right, but when we talk about the uniform distributed queue, so we have the liberty where for high availability, we can target uniform distributed queue to our cluster. That means to multiple JMS server. Similarly, corresponding to uniform distributed queue, if you need the functionality of topic, then you will have a uniform distributed topic for that. Okay, so we are going to cover the uniform distributed queue. And the process for uniform distributed topic would also be same. So now what we'll see in the demo, we have a domain with a cluster of two managed servers, and we will create two JMS servers along with the corresponding file store. Then we will create a JMS module. Inside that, we will have a JMS sub-deployment. And inside the sub-deployment, we will create two resources. One is the connection factory for the applications to create the connection to JMS system, and then our distributed queue. And then we will have a demo application which will send the message to your distributed queue, which we will monitor from the console. And then we will move the message from one JMS server to another JMS server. So let us begin with the example. Okay, so here is my domain. Okay, so there I have one admin server is running. Apart from that, I have two managed server MS1 and MS2 are running in a cluster with name of demo cluster. Right. So this is the my basic prerequisites that is there. So next we have to create a JMS server. Right. So in fact, not only two JMS server, one for managed server 1 and second for managed server 2. For that one, go to admin console, click on JMS servers. And after that, you have to specify the name of your JMS server. So this is my JMS server for managed server 1. So I have given the name JMS underscore server 1. After that, as I said, for each and every JMS server, you need a corresponding persistent store, which is a physical entity for storing your messages. Okay. So here, because I haven't created any persistent store, so it is showing as none. Okay, so if you wanted to create the JMS persistent store here, click on the create a new store. So once you will click on the create new store, for that you have to select the type of your JMS server. So this I have explained in my another session where I explained about the JMS servers. And then when we talk about the persistent store, we have a two type of persistent store. One is the file store base. Second is database store base. So if it is a file store, then your messages will be stored in some file structure directory, file system level. If you are selecting a JDBC base, that means in that case, your session data, your messages, okay, that is getting stored in your database, right? So I'm selecting the file store. So for that one, because we are selecting a file store base, so we have to give a name for that one and the location on my file system where the messages will be stored physically, right? And then you have to select the target for your file store. So I will select the MS1, manage server 1, because I am targeting this particular JMS server to manage server 1. So I will select the target for my this particular persistent store is managed server 1, right? So once it is done, you will back to the JMS screen, and then there you have to select the persistent store that you have created. And then you have to select the target for your JMS server, which will again manage server, sorry, 1. Right, now you can see my JMS server 1 is created. So what we have done, we have created a JMS server along with a corresponding persistent store. Both are targeting to manage server 1. right? Similarly, you go again back and you create a JMS server 2, which will be target to your managed server 2. So this is the first part is completed where we have configured the JMS server. Second, we have to create a JMS module. So go to admin console, click on JMS module inside the services and messaging, and then you have to give a name for your JMS module. I have given the demo module. After that, you can select the target as a cluster. So whenever you go for the creation of a JMS module, you have to select the target as a cluster. That means inside a single module, you can have a multiple JMS resources like connection factory, queues, topics, and then further, right? Along with that. So all these resources are part of a single JMS module. Okay, and inside, if you wanted to group the different resources, like some of the resources you are going to target to JMS server 1, some of the target you are going to target to your JMS server 2. In that case, you can do a logical grouping of the inside resources later in using sub deployment. But as a standard practice, whenever we create a JMS module, we target it to our cluster. Okay, so next you have to add the resources to your JMS module, right? So now you can see that your JMS module is created on the screen, right? Now what you are going to, we have to create a connection factory. So first we have created two JMS servers. After that we have created a JMS module. Inside JMS module, we are going to create a connection factory. For that, you have to click on the JMS module that you have created, demo module in my case. After that, you can click on new button inside the configurations. Once you will click on new, you will see a lot of JMS resources. So first we are creating a connection factory. So click on connection factory, give a name to connection factory, and GNDI name, as I said in my all of my JMS videos, this is the important part of your JMS queue configuration or any kind of a JMS resource configuration, because your application look up for the particular resource from the JMS system with the help of GNDI. That means whatever the GNDI that you are giving the name here, it should be defined in the corresponding application. Okay, once it will match, then your application can able to reach to this particular GNDI. If it is differ, that means your GNDI name in application is different than what you have configured. Your application will throw some errors that it is not able to contact the GNDI or it is not configured in your JMS system, right? After that, you have to select the target for that one. Okay, so I have selected the demo cluster for that one. Okay, and because this is a connection factory, so that can be shared across the multiple JMS resources, because this is just used to create the connection. Okay, and then as I said, JMS module we target to cluster, but when we go for the configuration of the inside resources like queue, connection factory, topics, distributed queue, etc. Okay, for that we have created sub deployment for the grouping. Okay, so now here you click on the create a new sub deployment. Okay, and then give a name for your sub deployment. And for sub deployment, you have to select the target JMS server, your JMS server. So I have selected my JMS server 1 and JMS server 2 for my this particular sub deployment. Why I have selected both? Because I am going to create a uniform distributed queue, which is possible to target to multiple JMS server as in comparison with the simple queue. Okay, so now you can see my connection factory is created, right? And the target is my JMS servers. Now I have to create a distributed queue. So again, you go to your JMS module, which you have created, click on your JMS module and then new option. Now, instead of selecting the connection factory, you have to click on distributed queue. You can see there you have an option of queue as well, topic as well, and distributed queue and distributed topic. Okay, so select distributed queue. Then give a name to your distributed queue, and then importantly, give a JNDI name which is defined in your application for this particular distributed queue. And then you have to click on the advanced targeting. Why we are setting the advanced targeting? Because by default, your JMS server targeting is not will be visible there. It will show only the cluster option, right? So because we have to target our this particular distributed queue to our JMS server, so for that you have to click the advanced targeting, where we can select the our sub deployment. So in the previous screen, you saw that I have created a sub deployment with name demo SD, right? And that I had targeted to my JMS server. So once you will select this particular sub deployment for this particular distributed queue, it will automatically select the JMS target for you, which is JMS server 1 and JMS server 2. And this is only possible with the uniform distributed queue. If you are creating a normal queue, and if you will go to try to target it to multiple JMS servers, that will it will give you the error. Right. So now our basic configuration is completed. We have created two JMS servers along with the corresponding persistent stores. After that, we have created a JMS module. Inside that, we had created a sub deployment, and inside the sub deployment, we have a connection factory, and then along with that, we have a distributed queue. Right. So now you can go to again to JMS module from the console and click on your queue, uniform distributed queue that you have created. Okay. So once you will click on your uniform distributed queue and then monitoring tab, Okay, so in my case, I have given the name as DQ1 for my uniform distributed queue. So once I have clicked on that one and then monitoring tab, you will see that the current count and the current your consumer count and message current count, message pending count, everything is zero because I have just created this one and I haven't sent any messages to this particular distributed queue, right? So now I am going to post some messages to this particular distributed queue. For that, I have a demo code with me. Okay, so I have a qsend.java program with me, which I have designed specifically to send message to this particular distributed queue. And remember that whatever the name for JNDI that I have specified for my connection factory and for my distributed queue, the same JNDI name I have defined inside my this particular Java code. Okay, so if you need this Java code for testing, I will show you the my email ID on the last screen. You can send email to me. I will send back to you this particular code for testing purpose, your demo purpose. Okay, then how to run this one is this program is simple Java and then the complete path of your Java class file, and then the URL for your manage server one. Okay, so I have two manage server one and manage server two. So in manage server one is running on port 7003. Right. So if I'm selecting the URL as p3 colon slash localhost colon 7003, that means I am sending the message to my JMS server one. Why JMS server one? Because 7003 is the port of my manage server one, and I had created JMS server one which I had targeted to manage server one, right? So if I'm sending the message to my manage server one, the corresponding message will getting saved in my corresponding JMS server, which is the JMS underscore server one, right? So I have sent few messages. Now again, go back to your console, click on your distributed queue and then monitoring tab. You will see that message current count is 5 because I have sent the 5 messages to distributed queue, and because I had sent it to my manage server 1, that means to JMS server 1, that you will see the count in front of the Q1. Okay, so when we create a distributed queue which we target to multiple JMS servers, then WebLogic will automatically create a unique name for each and every JMS server. Right. So I had given that uniform distributed queue name as DQ1, which I had targeted to my JMS server 1 and JMS server 2. Right. So now you can see in the screen, if you see the name format is demo module exclamation JMS underscore server 1 at the rate DQ1. So demo module is the name of my module that I have created, JMS module. Then it is the corresponding my JMS server name. I had created the name with JMS underscore server 1 and at the rate with the name of my distributed queue, which was DQ1. Right. Similarly, the second queue, it will automatically create for JMS server 2 with the name of your module, which is demo module, and then with the name of JMS server, which is JMS underscore server 2, at the rate of same distributed queue name, which is DQ1. That means when we target a uniform distributed queue to multiple JMS servers, it automatically create a corresponding queue for each and every JMS server. And because I had sent a message to my JMS server 1 or to manage server 1, you will see the message count of 5 in front of my Q1, which is demo module JMS server 1 DQ1. And the second queue is blank. Right. Now I'm going to post message in my uniform distributed queue from message manage server 2. So what I have given is instead of 7003, I have given the port number 7004, which is the port number of my manage server 2. And for manage server 2, I had targeted the JMS server 2. Now, whatever the message I will send to this particular message manage server, these messages will get stored in my JMS server 2. Okay. Now again, go back to your console. Okay, and if now you will see that there would be a count of 5 messages in your second queue as well. Okay, and don't go with the count of 7 in the first one, because during my testing in the previous screen I have shown you the 5 messages. Now it is showing 7 because I have done a lot of testing and in between I have sent a few more messages, so that's why it is showing the messages as 7. I had also read the messages from that particular queue during my testing, so it is showing consumer count as 1. Okay, and that is the reason it is different in comparison with the previous screen. But now you can only focus on the JMS queue second, because I have sent the messages in JMS server 2. Right, so it is showing the count for JMS server 2 now as well. Right, so this is how we can create a JMS distributed queue, and then how we can send the messages to distributed queue. Now if you wanted to move the messages between different JMS servers, okay, so what is the reason for that one? It could be possible that your queue sometime your particular JMS server is not responding, or if some of your managed server get crashed due to any reasons, then that particular managed server JMS system will not be available that time. right? Because as I said, this JMS is a singleton services. So JMS server 1 is only targeted to manage server 1. That means all of the messages that is stored in your JMS server 1 will be accessible from that particular managed server, right? And if suppose that particular managed server get crashed, okay, then you want to process the messages which is there in the JMS server 1, maybe from the JMS server 2. So in that case, you can move all the messages which is there in JMS server 1 to JMS server 2 because 2 is working fine. So the message will get processed from the JMS server 2. Right. So for that, you can again go back to your console, click on JMS module and click on your uniform distributed queue name and then click on monitoring. Now you will see that here the total messages count is 8 and 6 for JMS server 1 is it is count is 8 for JMS server 2 count is 6 as of now. Right. Now you can select the JMS server 1. Okay, because I am going to move the messages from JMS server 1 to JMS server 2. So click on your JMS server 1 and then click on show messages. It will show you all the messages which is there inside your JMS server 1. So now we want to move that one. So click all the messages and then after that click on the drop box of move and then click on move all. So once you will select the move all and next, then it will ask you to prompt you the which JMS server. Okay, in my case, I have only JMS server 1 and 2. In production environment, in professional production environment, you could have multiple JMS servers, or you may want to process it from the JMS server 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or anywhere, right? So in my case, I have only one JMS server, so I want to move my all the messages to my JMS server 2. Okay, and then click on next, and then it will ask you to select the destination. So destination in the sense that means the queue which is defined or which is automatically defined for JMS server 2 during the creation of uniform distributed queue. Okay, so that means if I have selected the JMS server 2, then I am selecting the destination also as the corresponding queue which is targeted for my JMS server 2, right? So now you will see that all the messages are moved. You will see a green message that selected JMS messages have been moved. Now again back to your console and click on your distributed queue name and click on monitoring. Then you will see that the message count for JMS server 1 is 0 because we have moved all the messages from there, and the message count in JMS server 2 increased because all the messages now there in the message server managed server 2 or in the JMS server 2 for the processing. And this is the overall JMS clustering, how we can configure the JMS clustering, how we can achieve it with the help of distributed queue, how we can move the messages. Okay. And if you think that this video is useful for you, then do subscribe to my channel. I will come up with few more interesting videos soon. Thanks for watching this video.